look behind fads and see how they're tied to classics over the history of time, where they're derived from. And I'm so fortunate and lucky to have Maddie with me today. She's a SCAD student. Maddie, do you want to give us a little background on yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to dive into some fun conversation today. So I'm Maddie Govedich. I am a SCAD student and SCAD staff member. So I'm currently studying luxury and brand management at SCAD, and I'm almost done with my degree. I only have two more classes left, which it's very bittersweet, but I've worked at the SCAD Museum of Fashion and Film for the past 3 years. Um, so I'm excited to hopefully bring some of that perspective into this conversation. And then I've recently pivoted to the SCAD events team, so working on signature events such as fashion show and commencement and things like that. I've
Love
definitely been really enjoying my time at SCAD.
Love all of that. So, Modal is a publication, and we're really focused on like where the future of culture takes shape. And a lot of our readers are really excited about technology, music. They're really looking for a place that champions visionaries and the arts. They're usually earlier adapters, and they're really excited about brands who are looking for like alternatives, thinking about culture, and also really exploring ways to be sustainable. So I'm excited to talk to you just to kind of go over some of what's happening and what we're seeing, not only like in magazines and at retail, but on the streets, and then how that's tying into other parts of pop culture. So, are there any fads that you're seeing that you've maybe seen before or for the first time that are really exciting to you?
Yes, good question. So there's a lot of trends right now that we're seeing again, but some examples are ballet core. I actually grew up as a dancer, so ballet core is really exciting to me.
I love it.
Yes, but it's obviously kind of a nod to the romantic era and 20th century dancewear. So you're really seeing that elegant femininity, also movement that people are really loving now. Um, and then also the drop waist trend is a nod to the 20s. That's kind of like a rebellion from form. And freedom from structure. So definitely seeing that like kind of flapper silhouette reoccurring in different ways. I know Abercrombie has a lot of like drop waist dresses right now that I've been eyeing. So that trend's really cool.
What I love about this, we were just looking at the list, the Q1 for 25 hottest products, and you just
Mm.
touched on two. Ballet core, thinking about Miu Miu had a great heel a couple seasons ago, and now one of the hottest products of Q1 was Puma. They had the Speed Cat Ballet Flat, so it's been fun to see different iterations, and then also Saint Laurent has the Gabby Vanity Bag, which is also kind of derived from the 20s era. So it's amazing how we've already, in such a short time, already connected a few things. So,
Whoa. Awesome. That's amazing.
yeah, very
Um,
cool.
yeah. I was just gonna say like some other ones that I've made note of are excuse me, sheer layers, like a nod from ancient Greece, and also Y2K with like the club wear and the sheerness that's definitely in right now.
Yes.
And the idea of maximalism. So in the wake of COVID, everyone's kind of rebelling in some ways. Well, there's kind of a lot of dichotomies going on with like the quiet luxury, like recession core, more subtlety clothing, and then also like maximalism, like the coquet core and all the bows and bag charms and all the things with maximalism. So that's really interesting right now as
Yeah,
well.
that's so true. And um, funny enough, the brand Chloe has the mini ruffle dress on the hottest product list too, which is
No
very like
way.
sheer and romantic. So
Yeah.
it's great to be able to see all these things bubble. And I know the bag charms are definitely coming up. Do you mention like maximalism versus minimalism? Do you see where these trends are like living? Is it mostly online or where they're starting from, or what's making people gravitate towards them. I know you also mentioned like the recession, and I know the economy's been one that with the tariffs and everything people are looking at. Um, how do you think what's going on in pop culture is like driving back to maybe why some of these products are starting to like really surface and bubble?
Ooh, that's such a great question. I love Instagram and like social media. So I feel like that's where I primarily see all of these trends popping up all over the place. And like obviously with TikTok, I feel like certain trends go viral. And that's kind of right now what's really interesting about fashion is instead of hearing what we're supposed to wear from like our, Vogue subscriptions, we're seeing it live every single day, evolving constantly. And also, like on social media, people are always trying to be novel and new and like set trends themselves. So I feel like right now we're kind of experiencing like an overload of trends. And one day you can be, coastal cowgirl, and the next day you can be wearing ballet core or like Western wear or more like streetwear. So it's just really interesting that I feel like to me, I know I keep harping on social media, but it's played such a role in just the constant evolution of trends and just now, yeah, we're seeing like the runway trickle down almost, immediately to consumers and everything. So
And
it's
I love that you mentioned Coastal Cowgirl, especially coming from Stagecoach and seeing how Beyonce's leaned into Cowboy Carter and she just launched her tour last week. There's so much happening there. Do you see that staying? And I guess overall, just for people that are listening, when you see a trend like that, how long does it usually stay and what's that life cycle for the most part?
for sure. So I feel like the most common life cycle is about 20 years. So right now we're kind of seeing low-rise jeans come back from the early 2000s. Um, Reviving now in like the 2020 time period. We're also seeing slip dresses coming back from the 90s. Those kind of came back in 2010, but we're kind of obviously seeing them now even into 2025. So 20 years is the most common. But then also with microtrends or subcultures, like for example, the Y2K trend, that has about like a 10-year cycle due to social media nostalgia. So I feel like you always see people reposting like Britney and her outfits and everything. So it really depends on like what the trend is. But when I was researching for this call, something that I found really interesting too is that some trends take longer, so maybe even like 30 to 50 years, because we're not ready to kind of embody a trend until we're number one, like physically ready from like a manufacturing standpoint, but also mentally, it's very psychological, with like what people are really ready to embody, which I thought that was so interesting because usually I've always heard is like the 20 years, but it's interesting to think about like the fact that trends don't come up until we're ready to accept them and buy them from a consumer standpoint.
Wow, that is
Right.
fascinating.
Right. I want to dig deeper into that later because when I saw that I was like, whoa, I haven't thought about it from a psychological standpoint, but obviously brands need to prep their consumers and the consumers need to be willing to, accept and buy the products for us to really embrace them. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, it just makes me think, watching the Super Bowl and Kendrick, he had more of a flair. And it's like takes me back to almost like when I was in middle school and high school, because that was almost exclusively like what people wore. And then we got into like the skinny jean era, which it seems like some people are still very much like against, though I have seen it start popping up on the runway. And the other thing, which I guess is also kind of maybe going back to about 20 years, and Chanel just did it on their runway, is everyone had like a side part, which I
Oh,
remember about a year ago, there was like a whole trend on TikTok about staying away and like making that a millennial moment. And now like Gen Z just wants it down the center.
middle.
But I
Right.
was so surprised that I just saw the side part come back. When Chanel did their runway show recently. So I was like, it is funny how it pops up, and it's almost like there's a new generation who will never know maybe where it exactly comes from, which is I think the exciting part of this conversation today is to almost like help connect those dots, because sometimes things you think are so new actually have been, it's just like a reinvention of the wheel, but not like remaking it from scratch.
Exactly. That's so interesting. And also, it's interesting to think about from a designer standpoint, like how quickly things change these days with social media. It's interesting to think of maybe how their brain, they're probably constantly racking their brains, like, how are we going to make this new? How are we going to make this innovative? In a time where, like you said, like the music industry, like has such a direct, response to consumers and film and all the different we're seeing the runway shows live on social media now instead of like through being exclusively invited to them and etc. So it's all very interesting. There's lots to dive into there.
Yes, well, we only have a few minutes left, so I'm just curious. Are there any color palettes, any TV shows, musical artists, anything that you think is like personally driving excitement or interest from you that you've been watching and seeing and that you're really hoping either stays for longer or goes away?
Good question. I personally love kind of the like Western wear, specifically like the coastal cowgirl, like we mentioned earlier, because it's more of like that feminine, beachy, but also Western ideal. I think in terms of shows, I still need to watch some of these, but I've been hearing all the rave about them is like the 1923 and Yellowstone,
Yes.
1883, all those different series that are really driving that like Western wear appeal. Also, I love Outer Banks, so that kind of brings in that beachy, I don't know, like high school fun element. But I guess both of those fused together creates that coastal cowgirl aesthetic that has been around since 2023 in its like newest form.
Yeah, and I think it's going to still continue. I know Lainey Wilson was really connected to that
Yes.
show and her music and also her style, and she's continuing to like elevate. But then you also had like Post Malone come in, Luke Grimes, a lot of different genres are starting to blend, as we talked about Beyonce too, that are kind of like sitting in that country space. And I know from just being at Stagecoach last week, that's probably not slowing down anytime soon. I think that's just going to be expanding and evolving too. So it's fun to see how fashion and music are almost in parallel in certain genres working together and kind of
Absolutely.
fueling the fun.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. I love all those artists and especially Lainey Wilson, her style is so interesting. And Casey Musgraves has that kind of like indie,
Oh yeah, she
feel
also
and
has that romantic like almost like a lot of her outfits are like sheer and flowing, and I feel that
yes.
taps into that piece too. That's a really good call out.
Yes. Yes.
Well, before we go, is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners or touch on?
Ooh,
Anything I missed? I don't want to
yeah.
stop from any of the ideas flowing, but also good to wrap up when you are.
Oh, of course. I guess one little thing is just it's really exciting that, like I mentioned earlier, we kind of get to create our own trends these days, and we're not really loyal to one specific trend. It's not like we're like the 1920s flapper girls that are, primarily wearing more like masculine silhouettes. Each day we kind of get to choose what we want to embody, whether that be coastal cowgirl or indie or anything in between. So I think it's just a really exciting time to be a part of fashion and an exciting time to have an influence as well. Um, so yeah, just I think it's a great time, yeah, challenge ourselves to continue evolving the trends and just embrace different, personas and everything, which is fun. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and thank you so much for having me. This was so fun, and I loved getting to kind of dive into this conversation and do some research and everything. It was a great reminder of all that's going on right now.
Yes. And I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Um, have you been able to, since it's coming up on Monday, looked into the Met Gala and the Tailored for You
Oh,
theme or any of the crossover of tailoring Black style and the dandy look and just seeing all those people that might be coming up? Has there been anything exciting on that front that you've like noticed or been able to dig into? Or are you just looking forward to seeing what comes up on Monday?
yes. I feel like I should have dug into it. I'm gonna do that now that you reminded me. But I'm very excited to. I'm gonna go to a watch party, I think on Monday to kind of look at what's going on. So I'm just excited to see what everyone brings to the table. I think some people, take the trend or take the theme really literally, and then some kind of take it with a more abstract approach. So I'm just really excited to see what everyone comes up with, and also which designers are really featured this time around. So,
Yeah, not to spring it on you. I was just thinking,
oh yeah,
the feminine and the romantic, and then looking at my gala being so tailored. I can't wait to see how it like balances, or just how you see that kind of intersection, or if it's going to be just
absolutely.
really, really like formed and tailored and just crisp. And so I'm excited too. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And we'll have to debrief about the Met Gala in a few
Yes,
days.
I would love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Maddie.
Of course.